So, hi, Joyce and Chris. I'm Mackenzie. I got an email from both of you. I'd like to kind of go over a couple of things that I understood from the email before we get started, just so we can all be on the same page. So, Joyce, I understand that you are a home health aide and a CNA.
Yeah.
And Chris, I understand that you're recently retired. And that both of you have moved to Florida after the deaths of your husband. So I'm sorry about that. And that after this, you've lived in this small kind of rural town, enjoying some peace and quiet, and then had a pretty big incident, and that was I believe Chris's car accident.
Yeah, actually, well, I don't know what happened. I was in the car and I just lose my mind. I don't know. I just pushed it. I didn't push the brake and I hit a car.
Okay, so you didn't push the brake and you hit a car, and then afterwards, while at the doctor getting checked up for that, you got some pretty devastating news.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so difficult.
Yeah, so that was for Chris an Alzheimer's diagnosis, and I'm sure neither of you were expecting that.
Not at all.
So with this has caused some anxiety for you, Chris, some anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and some fear about driving, which is really understandable.
Yeah, definitely. We live in a rural place, so now I'm afraid going out, driving my car, doing the things that I used to do.
She could have been so bad.
Yeah.
She could have gotten hurt. But she can't do that anymore. It's just not worth the risk.
Yeah, so this has left you, Joyce, with doing most of the driving and some caregiving and also working. Being a home health aide is a really difficult job.
Well, I want to make sure she gets the best care. That's really, really important to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, I'd like to start with you. I'd really like to get a deeper understanding of how this experience has affected your life and what it's been like for you. And then after Joyce, I'd like to hear a little bit from you.
Well, I'm so, I don't know. I don't know how I feel now. I feel so guilty. I don't know what could happen to me in the future. The diagnosis is just too much for me. I cannot handle that. I'm struggling with this thing. I don't know what to do. I don't know.
I can't stand the idea of my sister losing who she is and knowing who I am, and let alone being surrounded by strangers and being frightened. I've seen Alzheimer's. I know what's coming.
Seems to me that both of you have some really major concerns about how the other one is going to handle this process. And it's understandable. I think a lot of people in your position would have really similar fears. So, Joyce, being a CNA and having that medical knowledge, it must be really difficult for you to imagine allowing someone else to care for your sister. And it's clear to me how much you care about her. And it also stood out to me that Chris pointed out she feels there's a difference between being supported during this time and hands-on care that you've been providing. So, Joyce, what do you think about this? Is it different for you?
Oh no, it's the same, because she's asked me for support, and I'm doing it the best way I know how, and I'm good at it, and it makes me feel like I'm making a difference for her if she's cared for and comfortable, and that's who I am, and that's why we're talking to you. It's so important for me to make sure she's taken care of. But I'm so tired. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake at work, or I'm just overwhelmed.
That's it. That's what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to consume. I don't want her to be all the time just worrying about me, lose her life, what she is. I don't want that for her.
So, Joyce, it seems like you take great pride in caring for others, and it's something you feel that you're really good at. It also seems to me that your sister is fearing that she may take over your whole entire life and all of your time. So it looks like your sister is asking that you support her by actually caring for yourself. Chris, is that accurate?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think she needs to find something to do, some hobby, some activity, so she will not lose herself in the process. You know, this is a long process.
It definitely is a process. So Joyce, having some other ways to cope and fulfill herself would be ways to kind of help and support your sister. Is what it looks like, other than the hands-on care. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So often self-care is really difficult to maintain, especially for individuals who are holding down a job, and a job as stressful as yours. So it makes sense that it would be really hard to keep up with all the demands in your life right now.
It is very hard. I just don't want her to think that she's a burden because she isn't. I'd rather care for her than do anything else. But I can't pay for the doctors unless I go to work, and just the gas alone is really expensive, and things add up. Lately, I've been so stressed about finances I can't sleep.
So stress is also playing a huge role in your life right now, understandably. And looking at stress, what are some ways that you felt able to cope with stress in the past? What are some ways that have worked for you?
Well, she used to exercise. She used to swim. So I think that's a really good idea if you start swimming. There's a nearby pool that you can go.
I guess I did love to swim. The pool looks so pretty too. But when will I have time to go?
Oh, you can go in the mornings. You know, I always wake up at 10, so it is okay. You always been an early bird, so you can go in the mornings.
Maybe that'll work.
Yeah.
Well, exercise is a really great way to relieve stress and also take a little bit of time for yourself. So, swimming seems like something that might be a really great option considering the warm Florida weather that you're having and how close the pool is to your home. It might be helpful to try swimming at least a couple of times a week, maybe. And while it might seem really difficult to carve out some time to go to the pool considering how much you have going on, you've mentioned that you've been tired and stressed lately. So, exercising just a couple of weeks has actually been shown to decrease stress and increase energy.
Well, I can make it try. I can try it and see how it goes. It would be nice to get time for myself, and it would make me stronger.
Well, great. I think self care is critical when caring for others. We often provide our best service when we feel closer to 100%. So maybe it's possible you'll actually feel like a better caregiver when you've had a chance to recharge your batteries. I wonder what other ways we can help Joyce de stress.
Well, I have so much to do. I mean, between the house and work and making sure she gets everything she needs. But I try. I want to do the best, but it seems to backfire, and now I'm more anxious because of everything I have to do.
Yeah, well, I can see how the idea of having a hand in all the important parts of your life would provide some comfort. However, I think you're right in saying that extending yourself that far can backfire. I think it would for a lot of people because there's only 24 hours in a day and you're only human. So it's true that while there are several matters that are really important for both of you and they must be completed, maybe you can't do it all yourself. So perhaps we can maybe delegate some tasks and see if some other people around would help out. Are there any supporters in your life that live close by?
Yeah, we have our brother Jonathan. He lives 15 minutes from here. He works in a restaurant. He's a chef, and he worked the night shift, so I think he would help us. Because you always want to do things by yourself, but it's time to look for help, and he is the one.
But do you remember Jonathan owns the restaurant now? He isn't the chef, and he's so successful that he doesn't have to spend time at the restaurant. So I guess we could ask him to drive you to the doctor's, and then I wouldn't have to take so many days off from work. And she has appointments once a week, so I feel guilty asking him.
No, I'm the one who needs to ask him. I will do that. You don't need to take care of everything.
Well, that's not what I meant.
Well, it's clear that the idea of, doing everything and taking on lots of things and maybe, for Chris, you being a burden is really, it's a sensitive topic for both of you. So sometimes when we take on too many things, even things we like to do, like caregiving, can be more stressful than they typically would be because we have so much of it to do. So it's possible that by taking a couple things off our plate, such as having Jonathan drive Chris to appointments, you could kind of both win in this situation. Joyce, you may feel more refreshed after swimming and maybe more comfortable financially not having to take days off of work. And Chris, you'll still receive the care that you need with less of the guilt, as you put it, about Joyce kind of centering her whole life around you if she has some other hobbies that she enjoys. It's apparent to me, though, that both of you want the other to be cared for. Has this been a theme in your lives?
I guess it is because we've always looked out for each other.
Yeah.
She's mostly Chris for me. She's been my main support, and I'm afraid once things get worse, I won't have anyone to talk to.
Support is a huge factor in really difficult times. And there are several resources available if you're interested, such as, caregiver support groups, both in person and online. Is that something you think you might be interested in?
Is it like AA? I don't know. I don't want to stress out other people too.
It's more just like a space where people kind of going through the same thing, such as caregiving, can discuss their emotions, successes, difficulties. It's a place where other people who understand the ins and outs of life as a caregiver can kind of gather and, sometimes sharing with others and knowing you aren't alone can be a big help.
Well, I love that idea. You can go there, make friends. You can talk to people about the same situation.
Well, Chris, if that makes you feel better, I'll give it a try. The doctor mentioned that one's held in town hall, so but I didn't think I have the time. I'll make a point of checking it out, and maybe when I go to that, you can have dinner with Jonathan.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Great. So you both seem to have found a lot of great options today. Next week we can chat about how swimming went, see how Jonathan responded to Chris asking for company during appointments, and then whether Joyce was able to make it to a caregiver support group. We'll see how you liked it. All right. Have a nice week, ladies. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Bye. So, hi, Joyce. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
How did your week go?
Well, I got to swim a couple times, and what a difference! I feel so much better.
When she feels better, I feel too.
But our dinner with Jonathan didn't go so great. He says he's too busy to bring Chris to her appointments. He's opening a new restaurant, so he can't manage. He said maybe later he could help out. I guess that's better than nothing. But I still can't help feeling disappointed. It's just like when we were kids. He makes me so mad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's understandable that you'd be frustrated with that. But however, it also sounds like the door isn't completely shut, and maybe in the future he'd be more willing to lend a hand. I do have something else that might help, and it doesn't require driving at all. So there's something called the telehelpline for caregivers for people like you who live in more rural areas where the nearest doctor is an hour away or so. So it's a personalized service that will help you get information and get some help solving problems. So it requires about 8 phone-in sessions where you call and you talk to someone, plus a call-in helpline whenever you need immediate help. So does something like that sound helpful?
Oh, I love it. Sounds great. I because I won't have to figure out how to work it in my schedule.
Mm-hmm. And well, I found something on the internet. I was looking about Alzheimer, and I found in town we have one daycare for Alzheimer patients. So, you can drop me off when the Alzheimer disease gets worse. So they have a daycare, they have meals, also they have pets. They bring dogs so I can play with them and stay the day with them.
Well, I'm glad because the last thing we need is a dog.
Wow, so Chris, that's a great find. You're really taking a proactive role in your care, and it seems to be making a really positive difference for your sister and for you. The two of you are showing some great problem solving skills, and you're really able to work together as a team. So, as both of you continue to get used to this diagnosis and go through this process, hopefully the goal is that you feel stronger and more optimistic now working together as you manage. You're off to a great start.
Thanks, Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Bye. Bye.